Hello, welcome to this quick little video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks. This, as titled, is How to Avoid Parasitic Infringements. Welcome. This is going to be just a really short, there's no secrets here. Honestly, I know first and foremost, I am speaking about all forms of parasites. Our creepy crawly microbiome sharing the planet with us, parasites. I'm speaking about energetic parasites. I'm speaking about spiritual parasites. Some people call energy vampires, even people who represent this sort of energy. But it is an energy. And what I'd like to sort of just put out here for anyone who cares is to keep a well-rounded bird's eye view on what these things really are and what it's all about here, because we are a part of a whole third-party reality space where there's a lot of interaction and exchanges with a variety of life forms and across a spectrum of conscious awareness, right? So I'm going to just offer a little sort of thin ice layer, tip of the iceberg kind of generic explanation. I might dive into it later on. If anybody's curious, leave comments or send me an email if you have further inquiries or something I've said sounds a little different or weird. I'd love to have more conversations about this. Did I say it's May 6, 2026, and I'm like 8:40 in my morning, so I literally have 20 minutes to try to squeeze this video in. But it's on my heart this morning, and I feel I'm going to speak a little bit more at later times about organic and inorganic energies and operations in our world. But I thought this is I see it everywhere, and I even myself sort of get caught up in these things on mainstream, even like on platforms like YouTube or BitChute, wherever you're finding me. It's sort of like clickbait almost about parasites and infections and detoxes, and not to say that I don't believe that they're not real, but I think that the way that we approach prevention, care, and healing around these things it's all marketing schemes. It's all money making. It's big business, honestly. There's loads of good people who I don't believe are sponsored by big business, like David Avocado Wolf, for anyone who's looking for maybe like a mainstream person to buy things from or look for protocols and this kind of stuff. He offers some of those things, which, I mean, they've been quite a few years, people using them and tested and getting great results from them. So I'm not trying to say that specific herbs or medicines or these different types of tactics of dealing with them don't work or are all infringed or all like terrible and bad. They're not, and depending on what your exposure points are and what your internal health is really like. I mean, some people, we really do need these sort of drastic most invasive surgical types of medicinal remedies, and if that's your case or has been your case before, and you got wonderful benefits out of it, or if it was your case and you got poisoned by it, I see both sides of the fence here, because I've seen both, and this is why I personally I believe, for me, I don't need any of that stuff. And instead, what I am going to kick here and what I'm going to promote is free. It's available to all of us at all times, and it's really kindergarten metaphysically aligned. To say that that's my newest approach is to really keep things at basic building block level, and things that we can all tangibly manipulate and incorporate into our lives, no matter what stage or phase or where we're at. So for me, rule number one, and the obvious solution to the entire thing, is that parasites need a specific habitat in order to survive. And they need to extend that. In order to thrive, they need a repeatedly suitable environment provided to them. If they encounter an environment which is not habitable, which requires them to expend energy, or their resources, or doesn't look like it could provide an abundance of nourishment to them at an easily attained amount, they are not going to bother with you. They are going to flee. They are going to leave. And your own organic microbiome, which includes, our molecular sized, our parasitic friends, our fungi, all of these different things that live on a part of our physical body. They're a part of our instrument just as much as other anatomy is a part of you. There's a balance and a harmony at that level as well. There's also conscious awareness at that level as well. And it is as much a part of your universe, of you, your instrument. It becomes you just as much as anything else within you, just as much as your blood, just as much as your cells, your skin, So recognizing we still have authority and dominion over these things, recognizing that they do owe us authority within the hierarchy, and also understanding how you run your own system. So understanding a good inner balance, so that the authoritative energy comes from positive, aligned truths versus top-down, negatively aligned, pressure points that are pushed from negative alignment, right? Sorry. So, point being, if you have or seeking and working to actively seek and putting out promises and practices that return back to center point of harmony, of balance, of neutrality within yourself, that kind of ownership of work creates a positive atmosphere around you. And that positive atmosphere around you of truth seeking, of well-being, of looking for the highest good, that in its first sends out this resonance, this harmonic tune that wards off spiritual parasites first and foremost, because they will not approach a song that sings the truth, or that is seeking to be a part of the orchestra, of the harmony of organic life, that sings out the melody of God's, of the source's original song. They are trying to avoid that as much. They're trying not to hear that song and sing their own and go along with this other boom, boom, boom beat that the negative agenda is always pumping out, waiting for you to just drop it like it's hot with them over there. But if you're positively aligned, then there's a symphony happening that we're all a part of, and we're all really meant to be a part of. And you can easily just tune into that. And that song sings from inside, speakers that come from inside and fill up your instrument, your room, your tower, yourself. It fills up every cell. Just like if I love this energetic accounting model. Sometimes I'm speaking like we're a business here. Just like if you were a bank, if you were like a big building, and you put the music on for all your customers and your employees to hear. They're going to hear that music first. They're going to hear that music loudly and be more easily absorbed in it than a marching band that's coming down the street. Now, of course, this is pretty good of an example too, because the negative agenda just wants attention. They're just loud and obnoxious. They're just there for payment, to be seen, for you to jump out the window and go be a part of their marching band to nowhere land. So in your banking model, right, you can just be a good employee. You can just sing along with the good song in here, doing your good work, putting forth the service that you're designed and that you're birthed into being a part of the set and setting in here. Or you can be distracted by the loud, obnoxious marching band outside. And, but if we have a good tune, you're in your world, you could just go and be the CEO and say, oh, we'll just turn it up a little bit. Don't mind that nonsense outside, and keep up with a positive feel. That marching band's never going to come blasting through into your office. They're not. They have a track and a trail that they go around the whole town. All they want is people to get into their circuit and be a part of it. They don't want to be a part of any other circuit. They don't want anything else because they know theirs is designed already to feed what they need. And all the energies that are come and be a part of it are receptive to them. They've already been tainted, they've already been diluted and taken out of a high vibration, taken out of a place of positivity, gratitude, unconditional love, truth, all of these bright feelings that don't mind to be seen and that love to be seen, appreciation, love, admiration. Those, you cannot bring down into there. They're not acceptable. It's going to be only sarcastic comments allowed. Only, it has to be tainted. It has to be banter. It has to be there has to be a negative tinge to it, or it cannot be incorporated into a negative system. And so all parasites run on these same rules. They are embedded into them at a conscious cellular level. That's their name, that's their part in the game, to play these roles and to be a part of the system. And so when we create a good balance within ourselves, they won't want anything to do with us. They're not going to come into us. And anything that is already within you, parasites on all different levels, when you clean up your internal environment, they're not going to last. They're not going to stick around. It doesn't matter, but you have to do the cleanup. You have to stop feeding and giving them what they want and need in order to create an environment within yourself that's not suitable or habitable to them. And gratefully, like he's mentioned at the start, this is free, this is available to everyone, and it's simple to describe, even though it turns out to be quite difficult to do. It takes a lot of work. But if you realize that, well, the purpose of my work is the greatest purpose of my whole life. For my highest health, wellness, and happiness, what's not worth it there to me? Seriously. I ask myself this all the time because we get excuses, we get justifications, we get all these limitations put on us to these reasons that we feel like we've got to cram down and we're not worthy of that kind of stuff, or we have to work around it for some kind of reason, it's not available at this moment or whatever. If we just stop with no more excuses, no more, of having all of these background reasons as to, why and what, no excuses. Just say no. And you'll see a huge change in your inner environment. And that in itself the changes start to get those things to release, and they realize, oh, I'm not going to be fed here. Oh, I'm not going to be able to just be lazy and eat off of this stream of trash that keeps coming by, Oh, there's little and less. They're going to go where they think there's more. And so, case in point, and even the Bible says this. I was so shocked by this, but this is something that I knew, or I had learned in the medical world, so separate from religion or ideologies and dogma or anything. Well, they're their own cult, aren't they? But I felt like when I learned it in this first place that it was so separate from the way those people think and the tinges of assumptions and rhetoric that these preconceived notions that get all jumbled up with people when you think about tradition and religion. Well, science also, that whole world has their own set. But anyways, the medical world even pushes this with, I did this autoimmune protocol, right? When I was very sick, to figure out what was wrong with me. It's like, you don't eat anything. You get rid of every food that you could ever even imagine to eat. And you fast, and you also start eating very small things like bone broth, or, water, and you put in slowly different food groups at one time. It's sort of like they do this with allergies sometimes as well. They used to do it a lot more. Now they seem like they just do testing, which is kind of silly. But anyways, The Bible says fast and pray, and that all things come out with fasting and prayer. And even some things won't come out, even with laying on hands, even with different promotion of medicinal tactics and techniques, or all of these different sort of prescriptions. Sometimes those don't even work, and the only thing that really does work is actually nothingness, putting nothing into your body at all, and allowing the body to literally do the healing itself, because the body's intelligence always, it knows so much deeper than frenetic brain knows anything. And in fact, this is why parasites and the environment that we're in, it is at this three-front level, and it's so helpful to look at spirit, mind, and body at these sort of three facets, and to remember that all things sort of incorporate and can be absorbed and transferred through these different channels, and that they can appear and resonate with a layer more obviously or less obviously. So some people will say, oh, like with physical parasites, that is a literal issue, like you have to meet a physical parasite with a physical remedy. I don't believe in that. I believe that even physical parasites have a mental and a spiritual level to them. And in fact, when we look at energy alchemy, when we look at true balancing, when you do this real practice work in a practical, clinical sense, what I have found is that the spirit is always the strongest, most integrated, deepest level, and it provides the true healing. If any remedy doesn't seep through physical, mental, and into spiritual, no matter what the remedy is, if it cures physical, it's going to cure physical first, and it's going to cure mental, and the last thing it's going to come into is the spirit. And if it doesn't seep into the root, guess what? You didn't get rid of the issue, and it's going to reproduce itself again on those other facets. So really remembering that and owning all the layers of it within yourself consciously is to me very important. And the subtle attack on the spirit is something that takes you really have to break down the physical out layer, the mental processing informational layer of it, and then of course commercials. Sorry about that. And then, of course, the spirit becomes exposed. The spirit becomes obvious or able to speak. And then when we get into that layer, we can really actually promote through healing back through and see ripple effects of positivity instead of waiting for symptoms to come back or waiting for the crisis to regrow or whatever. When we get down to that spirit level that and provide healing through there, what happens is healing ripples out, and it creates a great protection for forever. You have to keep up with it, just like you have to balance your system every day, but it's more of a sovereign standing that is law, that you basically just lock into and know that nothing comes into my space, nothing comes into my mind, body, or spirit without my consent. Nothing can invade or pass through my porous environment without being seen by me. And it's not about barricading up and putting all these checkpoints and having security guards and having all this technology and all this kind of stuff to do it for us. No, the body, the spirit layer does this instantaneously because it speaks in a different way than we do. It exchanges information through the spiritual level, which is this almost like etheric, completely different base level communication. And if you have the law and understand system operations, then that point of authority sits at the seat of everything within you, and it's the internal 0 point which ripples out through every system, and it sits at the 0 point of every conscious torrido that's a part of you, right from a cell all the way out to the whole you. And so when we own that and understand that it's a law we operate by, it's instructions given by source code that our program runs, it becomes just like your heartbeat. It becomes just like spit in your mouth. You don't need to think about doing that. I mean, we can get into parasympathetic nervous system. You can control your heartbeat. You can control how much spit is in your mouth. You can control breath and your immune system, like they call it, and all this kind of stuff. And that's proof is in the pudding again, because then we're reclaiming ownership and we're saying, no, you're not allowed to operate with these poor instructions. We got a feedback, the whole printout from the boss, and say, what? You're running this down there? This is not right. This is negatively aligned. This is pay to play. We don't run off pay to play. We're eternal beings. What are you talking about? Let's get the good instructions here. Let's remember where we're from. Let's remember what we're operating off of and run this code here. And when we do that, and when you hand that over to the boss, they take it and they run with it. And that in itself creates such a ripple response that it permeates out like this song out into third-party reality space around us, and from the cells straight out on every level. And when we know this, and when we assign it to do this, of course, so that creates protection around us. That creates a blockade that they can't get into. Yeah, they see it, but they don't want a part of it. They cannot. It's like being a glitch in the matrix, sort of. They will not interact with you. I've got to run. Maybe I'll make a second type of video about this, about sort of why and the hows around. They want us to believe that when we empower ourselves this way, they become a bright light. Like at night with the moths, all of a sudden they all come to the bright light. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. Organic operates like that, of course, and there's an eternal giving that happens to these moth-like creatures that is abundant and that is everlasting, and the light is never harmed. Light's never harmed by the moths, right? If anything, I mean, the moths are harmed by the light. But they're not parasites. The negative agenda is not organic moth. It's not the same creature. They might try to confuse you by taking a form that looks just like it, but they don't operate on those instructions. They operate on the bad instructions that maybe, like I just said, you might find within yourself sometimes. They fully operate off of those. They don't ever give them up. They're never going to look back at the golden organic contract. They want no part of that. They will not sign it. That's the point of why they're negative, because they refuse to sign that. And they're trying to make their own and try to operate off their own. And so they're not going to come anywhere near the light, because they are trying to go around and pretend they have a golden contract as well to any sort of half-light beings who in their own shadows will just see the fake gold paint on the lettering on their contract and think it's the golden contract and think it's organic light, and they'll sign away on it. But they didn't read the terms of agreement. They didn't read any of the lawyer loopholes. And they literally have had for centuries special lawyers with little eyeglasses working on every little line on there to loop and trap everyone into every word in that contract. And to make sure that just like they look like moths, their contract looks like the organic one, but it is not. And so they are around in shadowed areas looking for anyone with half-light to sign their contract. They're never going to come into the light. And just like they are not going to be able to come into your system and stay, even if there's a sort of cracks and crevices and we have chinks in our armor. When they get inside and they realize that you're running off of, that you have checks and balances that run positive alignment, they're not going to meet the checks and balances. They're going to be detoxed out. They're going to be flushed away. They're going to run away. They're going to look for the flushing mechanism, and they're going to go for the exit as quick as they can. They're going to need to get out of there because they're going to perish within. Anyways, I've got to go. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you want more from me, I have tons of videos where I talk about this kind of stuff for hours on end. So if you want more, you can find more on my channel. But I'll catch you next time.